Well, it's been a few days since I put up a video. It's been pretty hectic around here, and honestly, some of the work that I've needed to get done isn't too exciting. But projects like grading the driveway take priority over race car stuff when the driveway starts to get kind of messy. To be quite honest, I kind of needed a break from what was going on in the shop. What started out as a simple project installing a line lock on the front of the Malibu has turned into a nightmare. Somehow the wires got pulled out of the line lock, and Jeremy had to take it apart and re-solder the wires back together. I told him I'd work on it once I get done grading the driveway this afternoon, and I'd rather he concentrate on trying to get the speedometer fixed in the C10 so that I can start to keep better track of mileage and maintenance intervals on the truck. So Jeremy worked on adapting the old style cable to the 700R4 while I finished up wiring the line lock. The good news is I can hear it clicking, but the bad news is that it's plumbed backwards, which is definitely an easy mistake to make if you don't read the directions. So I went ahead and spun the thing around, and when I put it back together, one of the fittings wouldn't seal up. So I called it quits for the night and decided I'd wait till Saturday morning when Mark opens back up at the parts store and Uncle Bucko would be available to help me bleed the brakes. Plus that would give me an opportunity to razz him on camera about screwing this thing up. Well, what do you have to say for yourself today?
Well, I was left here alone in peace, and now everything's great. Ta-da.
Evidently, Jeremy can only read instructions when no one else is around. Anyway, we finished this thing up, run it up on the lift, and he helped me bleed the brakes, and then it was time to back it outside and check the operation of the front brakes and the line lock. And thankfully, the line lock works just as it's supposed to. I decided to go ahead and take the car around the block for a test drive just to make sure that the brakes are up and we don't have any air left trapped in the system. And while I was out on the test drive, Jeremy brought the 64 in to hook the speedometer cable back up one more time. When Jeremy got back from the test drive, I still don't have a working speedometer. And right now I really don't have time to mess with it anymore. I've got a project down at Billy's house I need to take care of. Last week I'd made repairs to the carburetor on Tony and Tessa's Mustang, and it's sitting on my bench ready to go back on the car. So my plan for this afternoon is to load the carburetor up in the 64 and take it down to Billy's shop so I can get it put back on the Mustang and fire the car up for the first time with the new base plate from ATM. And since I still don't have an operating speedometer, odometer, or gas gauge, my first stop was the gas station. Now I had initially hoped to get this car fired up tonight and possibly take it for a test drive before the sun goes down. I thought I had remembered everything and brought everything with me that I was going to need. And I did, except for one tiny little thing. I forgot to swap out the ball stud for the throttle linkage from the old base plate to the new one. So unfortunately, we're not going to be able to drive the car tonight, but at least I can get the carburetor bolted on, set the idle mixture screws, and set the idle speed on both the primary and the secondary throttle shafts. So right now, that's the plan. I went ahead and bolted the carburetor on and had Billy turn the fuel pump on so I could double check all the fuel lines and fittings for leaks, watch the fuel level come up in the bowls, and double check the float levels and made sure that none of the boosters were dribbling any fuel. Then I primed the accelerator pumps by hand and double checked the accelerator pump arm clearance before it was finally time to try and fire the thing up. The engine fired right up and sounded really good, but when I hit the throttle, it was obvious that the idle mixture screws were set just a little bit too lean. So a quick adjustment on those, and we were in pretty good shape. Does that sound better than the last time you heard it run?
Yeah. The last time I heard it run, it wouldn't idle down lower than like $3,000. So.
Oh.
Old Atomic Tony blew his freaking throttle blades to smithereens.
Well, it's fixed now. Good. At least now when they come back, we can start tuning on it a little bit.
Yeah.
It's got good throttle response.
It's a good sounding motor. It's really good running motor, good sounding motor. Just needs more testing. Start winning races with it.
So that brings us to Sunday. Vicky has plans to make dinner for everybody tonight so we can watch the Bengals play the Kansas City Chiefs. So she went to the grocery store and picked up everything she needed to make dinner for us tonight while I worked out in the shop with my 2 associates, of course. Scrappy Doo and June Pup 2 kept me company while I was busy working on carburetors. I wanted to make sure I had these 2 ready to go for the giveaway drawing at the end of the month. I used a little bit of Jack's Wax metal polish to clean them both up, put new gaskets in them, and put both the carburetors back to their original settings out of the box. From here on out, everything I have will have an ATM carburetor on it. And while I was out working on carburetors, I went ahead and got my 950 ready to put back on the Malibu, complete with all new linkage, throttle stud, and fuel fittings. That way when I go to test between the 2 carburetors at the track, I don't have to worry about removing pieces and parts off one carburetor to put on the other. And I'm definitely interested to see what the difference is in performance between the 750 and the 950, both at the dyno and at the track. Anyway, that brings us to Monday morning, and Junior has got a plan for today to go down to Kentucky to do a little treasure hunting. He's found a car on Facebook Marketplace that he thinks he wants to buy, and since his trailer's at my house, I went ahead and hooked the 64 up to it, and we got ready to leave. I think Billy was a little nervous at first after seeing all the problems I had on my trip down to Wilkesboro a couple of weeks ago. But I assured him both fuel tanks and the fuel system are perfectly clean and ready to go. Plus, this will give me a good opportunity to test this thing manually locking the torque converter while towing the trailer. We took 71 south out of Columbus down to Cincinnati, over across the Ohio River, headed for Morning View, Kentucky. About a 3.5-hour drive, one way. The 64 made it down there without a single problem. Now all we got to do is check out this 65 Chevy II and make sure the car is worth bringing home before we shell out the money and load it on the trailer. Although the paint job on the car isn't the best, it is nearly a rust-free, running and driving, fully operational 65 Chevy II that hasn't been cut up or hacked up in any way, shape, or form. The car is powered by a 350 cubic inch small block with aluminum heads, aluminum intake, and a Holley carburetor, and the original Power Glide. Once Billy had decided he for sure wanted the car, we loaded it up on the trailer and decided that instead of heading directly home, to make one more stop in Kentucky while we're down here. We happen to have some really close friends of ours that own and operate a race car fabrication shop about 25 minutes from where we picked up this Nova. And they've invited us to stop by this afternoon before everybody leaves for the day. So Billy punches in the directions, and we take to the back roads in the old 64 to go see Jason Terrell and Brad Schneider's at 10 Soldiers Race Cars. Jason heard us pull in the old 64, and he came right out to see Billy and check out this little Chevy II that we just picked up. Now, Billy's been here before, but I had never been to the shop, so Jason invited us to come in and take a tour and check out everything that they've got going on, which turns out to be quite a lot. Brad was busy on the phone when we first walked in, so me, Billy, and Jason went straight back to the shop. There's no end to the neat projects they've got going on back there, like this X275 Mustang. And although these guys got their start working on radial cars, there's some no-prep cars in there as well. Most recently, they helped Jerry Bird repair his probe, and right now Tony McKinney's Chevy II's in there undergoing weight loss surgery. Now, although these guys have built one heck of a reputation over the last 4 or 5 years for building race cars right here in eastern Kentucky, as of right now, 70% of their business is online parts sales at 10soldierracecars.com. All of these parts that you see on the website are made right here in-house at 10 Soldiers. And the business has picked up to the point where Jason and Brad have bought an entirely new building that they plan on moving everything into in the next few months. And with the increased shop space, these guys plan to branch out, providing more and more parts and even powder coating in the near future. Anyway, once we got done at 10 Soldiers, it was time to head back towards Ohio. We made it across the Ohio River just as the weather started to turn sour. What started out as a light drizzle turned into sleet, and then freezing rain, and finally into snow. It took a little over 4 hours to make it home, and unfortunately we had to drive the truck and trailer through some salt. So getting everything cleaned up tomorrow will be a top priority for Uncle Bucko, while I end up having to make a trip over to Indiana with the dually to pick up some fuel. After I get the Chevy II unloaded, the trailer disconnected from the 64, and hopefully get the dually thawed out.
Well, it's Tuesday morning. My travels are not over. I'd like to go test this weekend. The problem is I don't really have any fuel. I mean, I can get winter blend from the pump. I've got to head to Indiana to go see Sam Walsh, who has found me a drum of Ignite Red. But first, we got to unload this Chevy II. Jeremy's back here helping me.
Now, I'll admit I was a little tired and grouchy this morning, but for good reason. Jimmy Dale from Nitrous Express has been giving me a lot of grief lately.
Finally figured out why Bill's grumpy all the time. It's because he doesn't have a raccoon hat. Gotta get you one of these, 100% raccoon.
Or it may have something to do with the fact that he's been riding me about not using the second stage.
Folks, I'm down here on the sales floor, but something just crossed my mind. Gotta know, why did we send old man Bill a 2-stage plate if he ain't gonna use 2 stages? I need to see 2 stages, Bill. What are we doing? You're gonna drive around the country and use 1 stage? I mean, it's cool. It'd make 175 for on a 150 shot. I'm cool with that. I ain't mad, but we got 2 stages, dude. Man, put your damn raccoon hat on. Go out there, get you some race gas, and spray both stages.
Now, I've been down this road before with Tommy's S10. Spraying 350 plus horsepower on winter blend E85 is not a good idea. But it just so happens that Sam from Young and Boosted has a plug for race fuel over in the Indianapolis, Indiana area where he's from. And the place where he gets all his fuel from is Brown's Oil Service on Van Cleve Street on the east side of Indianapolis. Sam agreed to meet me over there and introduce me to the general manager, Jamie Deere. If Jamie looks or sounds familiar, it's because he's the official announcer at Brown County Raceway for War in the Woods, a race that's put on by another Indiana native, Jeff Thomas, and it's one of our favorite events to go to every year, partially because of the atmosphere and the announcing is always top-notch. So obviously I was pretty excited at the opportunity to support a company that supports the kind of racing that we do. And these guys don't just stock a few pails of race fuel. I was completely blown away when I pulled up to this building with the dually to pick up my drum of Ignite Red that this massive climate-controlled building is stocked clear full of drums of race fuel.
Burn the best, drink the rest.
After we got my drum of Ignite Red loaded on the dually, I had some questions for Jamie about methanol. So this is your stainless tank over here, right?
Yeah, we keep all our methanol in a stainless tank. That's the best way to store it. And then we get about a tanker load a week, about 8,000 gallons a week. And then we bring it over here to this pump. This thing pumps about 48 gallons a minute. So if you guys bring your drums in, we can have you in and out of here in about 3 minutes. 99.9% medical grade.
Medical grade. Not commercial grade.
Medical.
Not reclaim. Medical grade. The good stuff.
Real good.
So if you're watching this video and you're ever in need of methanol or race fuel on the east side of Indianapolis, this is the place to go. After I got done talking to Jamie and at Brown's Oil Service, I gassed up the dually and started my 3.5-hour drive back to Ohio to check on my brother, who has been working on cleaning up Billy's '65 Chevy II and sending me a massive list of problems associated with the car that we're going to have to take care of as soon as possible.
Look at all them horsepowers. All the horses. All of them. There's a couple that's sick. There's one that needs to be put down, but they're all in there. One of them's got a couple broken legs.
So I'm guessing that Jeremy's trying to tell me that the engine doesn't run very well. So when I got back from Indiana, I stopped down to check on Uncle Bucko and see what he's up to. What are you doing?
Trying to relax.
Big surprise there, I guess. Not really. Well, what's the situation on this thing?
Steaming pile.
Steaming pile.
It's probably been painted a couple times.
Yeah.
It's been red once, I know
I know
that.
that. It's definitely been red.
I don't know what the original color is. It's hard to tell.
Yeah, we'll look it up. We'll run the VIN tag and see. But it does run. Sickly.
The wipers work, the headlights work, the turn signals do not.
Right.
I don't know about the brake lights.
They work.
I was doing good to get here. Oh, this thing runs like a turd.
Like a turd?
Like accelerator pumps out of it. The carburetor's full of garbage. The timing ain't set right. Electric gaskets are blown out, so it sounds like it has no exhaust. Pop, 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 pop.
Well, it sounds like we better bring it up to my shop tomorrow morning and put it on the lift and go over this thing from stem to stern and see what all's wrong with it, because Junior's wanting to drive it around this spring and this summer the way it is.
I'll look at some stuff.
Right, that's what I'm saying, because I think the brakes need some attention. I noticed that maybe the front brakes stick a little bit.
Yeah, they were hanging up.
Yeah, so we need to fix the exhaust leaks, check out the carburetor, check out the ignition. I think it definitely needs some different wheels.
What?
Those are terrible.
Those look alright with the color.
No.
Yeah, they don't look like race car wheels.
Look, I've got a set of Krager SS's that came off the Malibu out behind the shop that I think would look much better on there than cheap knockoff with the centers painted black. Boing. All right, so let's just plan on in the morning, fire this thing up, drive it up to my place. We'll back the Malibu out, put this inside, and we've got a drum of fuel up here to unload off the back of my truck.
I'm gonna get you a drum picker upper thing.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
I'm over your trying to get yourself killed with a fuel can.